2018, like any year, has about 10 regular meteor showers. But unlike any year, one of these promises to be spectacular. Not just a shower, but a storm. And a meteor storm that seems to satisfy the second sign that the Apostle John sees in Revelation chapter 12. And what is more fascinating is that the first sign seemed to be fulfilled in 2017. Now a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun. With the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. This is nothing unusual, because every year the sun is in Virgo for the 7th month. And it's during the 7th month that they have the Feast of Trumpets, or Yom Teruah. Now this is the only appointed time that cannot begin until 2 witnesses see the new moon, because it starts at the first day of the month. So it's the time when no man knows the day or the hour, because you don't know the exact day that they'll see the new moon. So this is a very familiar sight to the ancient Jews. What is unusual is what he says next. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. It appears that he is looking at the planet Jupiter that has just finished a 9-month transit through Virgo's womb. This is not very often that this happens, about once every 400 years, and it happened to happen in 2017. And now the Apostle John continues talking about a second constellation that he sees. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. Well, this sounds like a meteor storm. And this dragon, that's actually a constellation today known as Draco. And here you can see an image of the celestial northern sky. And right in the middle is Draco, the dragon. But that's not the way it's always been known. Job called him the twisted serpent. And this image from a 1825 box set of constellation cards in London adequately portrays the twisted serpent. This is how he's been historically known. He's always been a dragon, but he's a twisted serpent. Here's how Job described him. By his spirit he hath garnished the heavens. His hand hath formed or twisted the crooked serpent. And that word formed not only means twisted, it means to whirl. Isaiah goes on and he talks more about this twisted serpent. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you've said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I also will sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north. Isn't it interesting? He's in the heaven above stars and on the sides of the north. And here you can see the average north, the red dot in the center of this picture. The twisted serpent has completely surrounded the north on all sides. This big outer circle is the 26,000-year wobble that the earth has as the North Star rotates slowly around all the constellations. And he's right in the center of that wobble. He is in the center of everything, exactly as Isaiah described. Let's go back to the Garden of Eden. So Jehovah said to the serpent, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. That word bruise actually means to crush. And so we get that God says he's not only going to crush his head, he's twisted him, and he's whirling him. So let's go to the Garden of Eden, and let's go 4000 BC, when the North Star was just outside the serpent's tail, and see what Adam and Eve looked at. Notice that his head is just barely clearing the ground. He's being whirled around, just like Job said, but his head's clearing the ground, and he's in a position of authority. He's day and night. He's in the sky, keeping an eye on what's going on. Now let's go forward 6,000 years to where the North Star is today. Remember, Jehovah said he would crush the serpent's head? Well, look at how he's going way below the horizon. His head is getting crushed, just as was prophesied. The heavens are declaring the glory of God. In order to have a meteor shower, you have to have a comet. As you can see in this 1975 picture of Comet West, there are a lot of particles streaming off of it. That's because of the electrical potential difference between it and the sun. And that current is just stripping off all of the particles and then the blue gases that you see ionized at the bottom. As the Earth crosses the orbit of the comet, all of these particles enter the atmosphere, causing the meteors. Well, the interesting thing about the Dragon constellation is that for 1800 years after the prophecy, there was no meteor shower from the Dragon. That is, until 1900. Here at the Nice Observatory in France, astronomer Michel Giacobini, using a state-of-the-art telescope when it was constructed 14 years earlier in 1886, with a 30-inch refracting lens, he discovered Comet 21P, Giacobini. 21 because it was the 21st, P as in periodic, meaning a regularly occurring orbit. Halley's Comet is called 1P. Comet 21P is about 1.2 miles in diameter, and it has a 6.5-year orbital period, taking it from just outside of Jupiter's orbit to just outside of the Earth's orbit. But unlike all the other planets, which are pretty much on the same plane, it approaches from above and returns from below their plane. This comet produces what is now called the Draconid meteor showers, named after Draco, that we have every year around October the 9th. And as you can see from this picture in 2011, the radiant point for these showers is right behind the head of the Dragon. A significant point is the date that this comet was discovered, December 20th, 1900, on the 5th day of Hanukkah, a subtle hint that this comet was intricately connected to the Jewish people. For the first 3 decades, the Dragon was relatively silent, doing little to nothing. But in 1933, the comet made a close pass just on the outside of the Earth's orbit. By the time the Earth arrived 80 days later, no one had any idea of the surprise that the Dragon had in store. On October the 9th, 1933, it released its fury. Here's an account from Reverend William Ellison, director of the Armagh Observatory in Ireland.
7:58. Then it was apparent that a really great meteoric storm was in progress. I counted 200 meteors in 2 minutes, and then counting became impossible. The fire stars became as thick as the flakes of a snowstorm. Instead of 2s and 3s, they came in flocks and gusts. The sky was thick with them wherever one looked.
Just 1 week after the meteor storm, Albert Einstein arrived in the United States as a refugee from Nazi Germany. Here he is exiting the steamer Westerland carrying his precious violin. Just 9 months earlier, on January the 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler had become Chancellor and started enacting what would be more than 400 anti-Jewish decrees and regulations. Just 10 months after the storm, Hitler would take full control as the master of Germany after he seized the presidency from von Hindenburg. The reign of terror had begun. The first meteor storm from the Dragon was only seen in Europe, where the Hitler threat originated, and it happened during the week-long celebration of Sukkot by the Jews, which is God's appointed time of tabernacles. The Dragon didn't stay quiet very long. After just 13 years, he unleashed his second onslaught, a meteor storm. Here's an account from Stan Mott of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, viewing from North Bay, Ontario, on October 10th of 1946.
It really did look like a shower. The meteors were coming fast and furious, with several at any instant. There were so many meteors, I just started watching specific areas, like the head of Draco. It looked like the eyes were just winking.
It was just 9 months earlier, on January 10th, 1946, that the first session of the United Nations General Assembly was held in the Central Hall in London. 2 weeks after the meteor storm, the United Nations came to the United States in New York City, and the first meeting was held. The beast system of universal government was now in place. The second meteor storm from the Dragon was only seen in North America, where the United Nations was now located. And it happened during the same appointed time as the first meteor storm on Sukkot, the Jewish appointed time, thus giving a little subtle connection that there had been a rise of another anti-Jewish power. For the last 72 years, the Dragon has been relatively calm, producing only a little light shower or nothing. And as you can see from this chart showing the position of the Earth at every pass of the comet, most of the time there's nothing. Most meteor showers occur yearly, but not this one. You have to be close by and inside of the orbit. A closer look at the upper right-hand quadrant shows that this is where all the activity is. Both the 1933 and the 1946 storms occurred in this region, when the Earth was close behind the comet and close inside the comet's orbit. And you see 2018, the distance is fairly similar. In 1985, it was a little further away, and they had 200 meteors per hour recorded. But in 1933, it was 10,000 and more meteors per hour. So we're somewhere in the middle, and 2018, we're in the perfect position for the third storm from the Dragon. In 2029, Comet 21P makes a very close pass by Jupiter, which is predicted to sling its orbit even further away from the Earth. That means this is likely the last meteor storm that we'll ever see from the Dragon. An interesting phenomenon occurs exactly 1 month prior to the meteor storm. On September the 10th, 2018, Comet 21P makes its closest approach of its entire 6.5-year period to the Sun on that day. And 8 hours later, it makes its closest approach to the Earth. Both happening on the same day. The chances of that occurring are astronomical. September the 10th just happens to be Yom Teruah. The central theme of Yom Teruah is Wake Up Sleeper with a blast on the trumpet. And it seems Yehovah is giving us a wake-up warning. The Earth crosses the orbital plane of Comet 21P on October the 8th at 2300 hours Universal Time. That's when the storm should happen. Now in the United States, that's 5 in the afternoon. By the time it's sunset at 7, it should be underway. And in Israel, you'll have to wait till 1 in the morning. The dragon will already be very low in the sky. But maybe that's why the Apostle John saw only 1/3 of the stars cast to the ground, because it's coming from the head of the dragon and he's so low. And maybe that's also why he saw the tail cast the stars. Look at the motion that the tail makes as the dragon moves from 7 in the afternoon to 1 in the morning. The tail is scooping up the stars to be thrown to the earth. The dragon's first meteor storm warned us of the tyrannical rule of the merciless Adolf Hitler. The second storm warned us of the tyrannical system of world government under the United Nations. But what lies ahead appears to be much worse. Let's go back to the same book of Revelation chapter 12 and skip ahead 5 verses. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. He's still talking about a dragon, but this is really talking about Satan. No longer is it just meteors in the sky. He is connecting the actual falling of the devil and his angels to the event in the sky of the dragon and the meteor storm. This is serious. And notice that this verse seems to imply that the devil is cast out first, before the angels. Consider this. On November the 14th, 2017, at 16:47 p.m., a giant meteor event occurred in Western Europe. It was the most reported fireball ever. Sightings were reported from all over Western Europe, Italy, France, Germany, and even this driver in Strasbourg, France, captured it on his webcam. By analyzing the fireball's trajectory, they have predicted that it landed somewhere in Western Germany, west of Frankfurt. So this October, look not only for a meteor storm from the dragon, but look for the real angels to be cast to the earth. And it just might be that their leader is already here.